High Commander Zephyros stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the stars. His green scales gleamed under the bright lights as he read the reports coming in from across the galaxy. For 300 years, his people, the Vorthak, had ruled everything. They controlled thousands of worlds and billions of beings. Life was good for the Empire. The Vorthak were proud of what they had done 50 years ago. They had found a dangerous species called humans on a small blue planet. These humans were violent and unpredictable. They fought each other constantly and had powerful weapons. The Empire decided they were too risky to keep alive, so they destroyed every human world they could find. Earth was turned into ash and dust. Every human ship was hunted down and destroyed. Every human colony was wiped out completely. At least that's what Zephyros believed. He walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. Today's reports were strange. 3 mining stations in the Outer Rim had gone silent in the past month. When rescue teams arrived, they found the stations completely destroyed. The strange thing was how clean the attacks were. No debris floating around. No signs of a big battle. The stations were just gone, as if they had been cut apart with surgical precision. "Commander," his aide called out, "we have another report from Sector 7. Zephyros turned his large head toward the young Vorthak officer. "What now?" "The transport convoy carrying rare metals has disappeared, sir. All 12 ships. They were supposed to arrive at Chronos Station 3 days ago." This was getting annoying. Zephyros had more important things to worry about than lost mining ships. The Empire was planning to expand into new territories, and he needed to focus on that. But these mysterious attacks were starting to happen too often to ignore. "Send Investigation Fleet Beta to search the area," he ordered, "and double the patrol schedules in all Outer Rim sectors. Far away from the Empire's capital worlds, in a hidden system that didn't appear on any star charts, Admiral Kang Daeho stood in front of a massive window. Outside he could see dozens of sleek black ships floating in the darkness of space. These ships looked nothing like the old human vessels from 50 years ago. They were smooth and silent, designed to move through space without being detected. Kang Daeho was an old man now. His hair was completely gray and deep lines marked his face. But his eyes were still sharp and filled with anger that had burned for 50 years. He had been a young captain when the Vorthak came to destroy humanity. He had watched his home planet burn. He had seen his family die, but he had also escaped with thousands of other humans to this secret place. "Admiral," a voice said behind him. He turned to see Dr. Park Minji approaching. She was about his age, with short gray hair and intelligent eyes behind thick glasses. She had been working non-stop for 50 years to give humanity the tools it needed for revenge. "The latest strike was successful," she reported. "Captain Lee Sunho's team destroyed the convoy without any losses. The new stealth technology worked perfectly. The Vorthak never saw them coming." Kang Daeho nodded slowly. "Good. How many ships do we have ready now?" 237 fully operational vessels, sir. All equipped with our newest weapons and stealth systems. The Vorthak won't be able to detect them until it's too late." Dr. Park Minji had been Earth's best scientist before the war. When they escaped to this hidden moon, she had immediately started working on new technologies. She studied every piece of Vorthak equipment they could capture. She learned how their shields worked, how their weapons functioned, how their computers operated. Then she designed human technology to be better. The stealth system was her greatest achievement. It didn't just hide ships from radar and sensors. It made them completely invisible to any detection method the Vorthak used. Human ships could fly right up to Vorthak vessels without being seen. "What about Captain Lee's team?" Kang Daeho asked. "They're already back at base. No injuries, no damage to their ship. The young captain is eager for the next mission." Captain Lee Sunho was different from the older survivors. He had been born on this hidden moon after the war. He grew up hearing stories about Earth and about the terrible things the Vorthak had done. Unlike the older humans who remembered life before the war, Lee Sunho only knew one thing: the need to make the Empire pay for what they had done. Kang Daeho walked through the corridors of their secret base. It had taken 50 years to build this place. The moon looked dead and empty from the outside, but inside it was a massive military facility. There were shipyards where new vessels were built. There were training areas where soldiers practiced. There were laboratories where scientists developed new weapons. Thousands of humans lived here now. Some were original survivors from the war, but many were their children and grandchildren. All of them knew their purpose: to prepare for the day when humanity would strike back. The base had everything they needed to survive and grow stronger. Hidden mining operations gathered resources from asteroids. Secret farms produced food in underground chambers. Advanced factories built weapons and equipment. Everything was designed to stay hidden from the Empire's sensors. Kang Daeho entered the main command center. The room was filled with screens and displays showing information from across the galaxy. Human agents had been carefully placed in many Empire worlds over the years. They looked like other alien species thanks to advanced surgery and technology. These spies sent back valuable information about Vorthak military movements and weak points. "Admiral," called out Commander Yoon Taek from his station, "we're receiving reports that the Empire is starting to get worried about the attacks. They're increasing patrols and sending investigation teams to the Outer Rim." Yoon Taek was one of their best reconnaissance officers. He had led many dangerous missions into Empire territory to gather intelligence. His job was to make sure humanity always knew what the Vorthak were planning. "Let them investigate," Kang Daeho said with a cold smile. "They won't find anything. Our ships are ghosts. Our bases are invisible. They'll search for answers that they can't find." The truth was that humanity had learned patience during their 50 years of hiding. They could have started attacking years ago, but Kang Daeho knew that wasn't smart. They needed to be completely ready before revealing themselves. They needed to be so strong that when they finally showed themselves, the Empire would have no chance to fight back. Dr. Park Minji joined them at the command station. "Admiral, I think it's time to move to the next phase. We have enough ships now. Our weapons are ready. The computer virus I've developed is prepared for deployment into their networks." Kang Daeho looked at the displays showing Empire territory. Soon, very soon, those worlds would know that humanity had returned, and when that day came, there would be no mercy for those who had tried to destroy them. "Begin preparations for Phase 2, he ordered. "It's time to remind the galaxy that humanity is not so easy to kill." In the darkness of space, the black ships waited silently. 50 years of preparation were about to pay off. The Empire had no idea what was coming for them. High Commander Zephyros stared at the empty space where battlecruiser Dominator should have been. The massive Vorthak warship had simply vanished 3 days ago near the Centauri sector. One moment it was there on all sensors, the next moment nothing. No distress signal, no debris, no trace of what happened to the 800 crew members aboard. "This is impossible," he hissed through his sharp teeth. "Battlecruisers don't just disappear. They're the most powerful ships in our fleet." His aide, a nervous young Vorthak named Corvus, held a datapad with shaking claws. "Sir, the last communication from Dominator was routine. Captain Zelthorn reported normal patrol status. Then all contact was lost exactly 14 minutes later." Zephyros turned away from the view screen and walked to his command chair. The bridge of his flagship was enormous, with dozens of crew members working at various stations. Red lights blinked on multiple displays showing the locations of recent attacks across the Outer Rim territories. "Deploy Investigation Fleet Alpha immediately," he ordered. "I want every piece of space debris in that sector examined. Something destroyed our ship and I want to know what." What Zephyros didn't know was that at that exact moment, Captain Lee Sunho was standing in the cargo bay of Dominator. The young human captain walked through the corridors of the captured Vorthak ship with his team. The battle had lasted only 12 minutes. The Vorthak crew never had a chance to fight back properly. Lee Sunho was 28 years old, born and raised on the hidden human base. He had trained his entire life for moments like this. His team wore advanced combat suits that made them nearly invisible. Their weapons could cut through Vorthak armor like paper. "Captain," called out Engineer Choi Hyung from across the cargo bay, "I've finished downloading their computer systems. We now have complete records of their patrol routes and communication codes." Choi Hyung was a technical genius who understood Vorthak technology better than most Vorthak engineers. He could hack into their systems and make their own equipment work against them. This captured battlecruiser would provide valuable information about Empire military operations. "Excellent work," Lee Sunho replied. "What about the crew?" "All 800 have been processed, sir. No survivors." Lee Sunho felt no emotion about this. He had been taught from childhood that the Vorthak were monsters who had tried to destroy all humans. They deserved no mercy. Every dead Vorthak was justice for the billions of humans who had died 50 years ago. "Prepare the ship for transport to our hidden shipyard," he ordered. "Dr. Park Minji will want to study their latest technology." Back at the human base, Dr. Park Minji was working in her laboratory when the news arrived. She looked up from her computer screens as Admiral Kang Daeho entered with a satisfied expression. "The capture was successful," he reported. Lee Sunho's team took the battlecruiser without any human losses. "They're bringing it back now." Dr. Park Minji smiled. This was exactly what she needed. "Perfect timing, Admiral. I've just finished developing the virus that will destroy their computer networks. With access to a current battlecruiser systems, I can make sure the virus will work on all their ships." The virus was Dr. Park Minji's secret weapon. It was designed to hide inside Vorthok computer networks for weeks or months without being detected. Then, when she activated it, the virus would cause critical systems to fail at the worst possible moments. Weapons would shut down during battles. Communications would cut out during emergencies. Navigation systems would provide wrong information. "How do we deploy it across their entire network?" Kang Daeho asked. "That's where Operative Kim Nari comes in," Dr. Park Minji explained. "She's been working undercover in their central command system for 3 years. When I give her the virus, she can upload it to their main networks." Operative Kim Nari was one of their best spies. She had undergone surgery to look like a Keltorian, one of the alien species that served the Empire. For 3 years, she had worked as a computer technician in a major Vorthok military facility. She had access to systems that could spread the virus to thousands of ships and stations. Meanwhile, Investigation Fleet Alpha was searching the area where Dominator had disappeared. The fleet consisted of 6 heavy cruisers and dozens of smaller ships. They used every type of sensor available to scan for clues. Commander Vexitar led the investigation from his flagship. He was an experienced officer who had fought in many battles for the Empire, but he had never seen anything like this. There was absolutely no evidence of what had happened to the missing battlecruiser. "Sir," reported his science officer, "we're detecting some unusual energy readings about 2 kilometers from Dominator's last known position." "Unusual how?" Vexitar demanded. "The energy signature doesn't match any known weapon or propulsion system. It's completely unfamiliar." What they were detecting were the traces left by human stealth technology. Dr. Park Minji's ships used a special type of engine that bent space around them. This allowed them to move without being seen, but it left faint energy traces that lasted for days. Commander Vexitar ordered his ships to analyze the energy readings, but his scientists couldn't identify what had caused them. The technology was completely unknown to the Empire. "Could this be from one of the rebel species?" he asked his aide. "Unlikely, sir. None of our subject races have technology this advanced. This seems to be something new." Back on the human base, Commander Yoon Taek was preparing for his next reconnaissance mission. He had been assigned to infiltrate a Vorthok weapons research facility to steal information about their newest defensive systems. Yoon Taek was a master of stealth and infiltration. He could disguise himself as almost any alien species and blend in perfectly. His mission was to get inside the research facility and copy their files without being detected. "Remember," Admiral Kang Daeho told him before he left, "we need to know everything about their new shield technology. If they're developing better defenses, we need to be ready." The weapons facility was located on a heavily defended world called Nexus Prime. It was surrounded by patrol fleets and protected by orbital defense platforms. But Yoon Taek's ship was completely invisible to their sensors. He landed on the planet's surface without anyone knowing he was there. The facility itself was enormous, with thousands of Vorthok scientists and engineers working on new weapons and defenses. Yoon Taek used false identification documents that Kim Nari had provided to get inside. To everyone there, he looked like a Zephyrian technician assigned to maintain computer systems. Inside the facility, he discovered something interesting. The Vorthok were developing new shields specifically designed to protect against unknown weapons. They had analyzed the damage from recent attacks and realized that their current defenses were useless against whatever was destroying their ships. "They're scared." Yoon Taek reported back to base through an encrypted communication. "They know something is hunting them, but they don't know what. They're working frantically to develop new defenses." This news pleased Admiral Kang Daeho greatly. Fear was exactly what he wanted the Empire to feel. For 50 years they had lived in comfort and security, believing they were the strongest force in the galaxy. Now that security was crumbling, and they didn't understand why. Dr. Park Minji received the captured battlecruiser and immediately began studying its systems. What she found excited her greatly. The Vorthak had made several improvements to their technology since the war, but they had also created new weaknesses that she could exploit. Their new communication system is more vulnerable than the old one, she explained to the command staff. My virus will spread faster and cause more damage than I originally planned. She also discovered that the Vorthak had been keeping detailed records of every species they had conquered or destroyed. In their files, she found the official report on humanity's extinction. According to their records, every human world had been destroyed and every human ship eliminated. There were no survivors anywhere in the galaxy. They really believe we're all dead, she told Kang Deho. They have no idea we're coming for them. As the days passed, more Vorthak ships and stations disappeared. The attacks were becoming bolder and more frequent. Investigation teams found no clues, no witnesses, and no explanations. The invisible attackers struck without warning and vanished without a trace. High Commander Zephyros was starting to feel desperate. He had lost 12 ships and 5 major installations in the past month. His superiors in the Empire were demanding answers, but he had none to give. Sir, his aide reported during their daily briefing, the High Council is sending Grand Admiral Thexmore to oversee the investigation personally. Zephyros felt his blood run cold. Grand Admiral Thexmore was the Empire's supreme military commander. If he was coming personally, it meant the High Council considered this a major threat to Empire security. When does he arrive? Zephyros asked. In 3 days, sir. He's bringing the First Fleet with him. The First Fleet was the Empire's most powerful naval force. It consisted of 50 battle cruisers and hundreds of support ships. If Grand Admiral Thexmore was bringing them, he intended to hunt down and destroy whatever was threatening the Empire. But Admiral Kang Deho was ready for this. In fact, he was counting on it. The arrival of the First Fleet would give him the opportunity he had been waiting for. Grand Admiral Thexmore arrived at Zerion Prime with the full might of the Empire's First Fleet. The massive Vorthak armada filled the space around the planet like a deadly cloud of metal and fire. Zerion Prime was home to the Empire's most prestigious military academy, where young Vorthak officers learned the art of war and conquest. Thexmore was the Empire's greatest military leader. He was older than most Vorthak, with dark green scales marked by battle scars from 100 campaigns. His flagship, Eternal Dominance, was the largest warship ever built by the Empire. It carried enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. High Commander Zephyros, Thexmore's voice boomed across the communication channel. Report your findings immediately. Zephyros stood nervously on his bridge, knowing that his career and possibly his life depended on what he said next. Grand Admiral, we have confirmed that an unknown enemy is conducting attacks throughout the Outer Rim. They appear to have stealth technology beyond anything we've encountered. Unknown enemy? Thexmore's voice was filled with anger. There are no unknown enemies. We control this galaxy. Every species capable of space travel serves the Empire or has been destroyed. What neither of them knew was that at that moment, Captain Ojiwan was leading a massive human strike force toward Zerion Prime. She commanded 30 of humanity's most advanced warships, all completely invisible to Vorthak sensors. Captain Ojiwan was one of the best military commanders humanity had produced. She was young, only 32 years old, but she had been training for this mission her entire life. Her ships carried Dr. Park Minji's most powerful weapons and were crewed by soldiers who had grown up dreaming of revenge against the Empire. All ships maintain stealth formation, she ordered through the secure communication system. Remember, we don't attack until the message is broadcast. We want them to know exactly who's killing them. On the human base, Admiral Kang Deho stood in the main command center, watching the displays that showed the positions of both fleets. This was the moment he had planned for 50 years. Today, the galaxy would learn that humanity had returned. Dr. Park Minji, he called out. Are the communication systems ready? Yes, Admiral, she replied from her station. The message is prepared for broadcast on all Empire frequencies. When Captain O gives the signal, every Vorthak in the galaxy will hear it. The message was simple but powerful. It would tell the Empire exactly who was attacking them and why. More importantly, it would let them know that this was only the beginning of humanity's revenge. At the military academy on Zerion Prime, thousands of young Vorthak cadets were attending their morning training exercises. They had no idea that death was approaching from the darkness of space. The academy's instructors were teaching them about the Empire's past victories, including the glorious campaign that had eliminated the dangerous human species 50 years ago. The humans were a violent and unpredictable race, Instructor Velkath told his class. They fought each other constantly and possessed dangerous weapons. The Empire made the wise decision to remove them from the galaxy before they could threaten our civilization. Above the planet, Grand Admiral Thexmore was reviewing intelligence reports in his command chamber. The mysterious attacks had continued even after his arrival, with 2 more patrol ships disappearing just yesterday. This unknown enemy was becoming bolder, almost as if they were challenging the Empire directly. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving an incoming transmission on all frequencies. It appears to be some kind of general broadcast." "Put it through," Thexmore ordered. Suddenly, every screen in the Empire fleet lit up with the same image. It showed a human face that most Vorthak had never seen before. Admiral Kang Deho appeared on their displays, wearing the uniform of the Earth Defense Force. "I am Admiral Kang Deho of the Earth Defense Force," his voice echoed across every Vorthak ship. "You thought you killed us all. You were wrong. We remember. We survived. And now we're coming for you." The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the Vorthak fleet, officers stared in shock and disbelief. Humans were supposed to be extinct. They had been wiped out completely 50 years ago, yet here was one of them, broadcasting from somewhere in space, telling them they had returned. Grand Admiral Thexmore felt his blood turn to ice. Humans alive? Impossible. But the evidence was right there on his screen. Somehow some of them had survived and hidden for 50 years. "Sir," his sensor officer suddenly screamed, "multiple contacts are decloaking around the planet. Unknown ship designs. They're everywhere." Captain OG-1 smiled as her fleet dropped their stealth fields and became visible to Vorthak sensors. 30 sleek black ships materialized out of nothing, surrounding Xerion Prime like a deadly trap. The human vessels were smaller than Vorthak warships but moved with incredible speed and grace. "All ships," she commanded, "commence attack. Show them what 50 years of preparation can accomplish." The battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever experienced. Human weapons cut through Vorthak shields like they weren't even there. Beams of pure energy sliced through armor that was supposed to be indestructible. Missiles that appeared from nowhere struck with pinpoint accuracy. Tech specialist Bae Soman sat at her station aboard Captain O's flagship, coordinating the electronic warfare assault. Her job was to disrupt Vorthak communications and prevent them from calling for help. But she was also doing something else, activating Dr. Park Minji's virus in the Empire's computer networks. "Virus deployment successful," she reported. "Their command systems are starting to fail across the sector. All around Xerion Prime, Vorthak ships found their weapons powering down at the worst possible moments. Communication systems cut out just as commanders tried to coordinate their defense. Navigation computers provided false information, causing ships to collide with each other. On the planet's surface, Colonel Song Wubin led human ground forces in an assault on the military academy. His soldiers appeared out of nowhere, having been transported down by advanced teleportation technology. They moved through the academy like ghosts, eliminating Vorthak defenders with ruthless efficiency. The attack on the academy was not just about destroying a military facility. It was about sending a message to every Vorthak in the galaxy. Their most sacred institution, the place where they trained their future leaders, was being torn apart by the very species they thought they had destroyed. Colonel Song Wubin stood in the Academy's main hall, where portraits of famous Vorthak generals hung on the walls. He raised his weapon and systematically destroyed each portrait, erasing the Empire's proud history one piece at a time. "This is for Earth," he said quietly as he demolished a statue of the Vorthak admiral who had led the attack on humanity's homeworld. In space, Grand Admiral Thexmore tried desperately to organize a defense, but his fleet was falling apart around him. Human ships moved faster than anything should be able to move. Their weapons were more powerful than anything in the Empire's arsenal. And worst of all, they seemed to know exactly how Vorthak tactics worked. "How are they doing this?" he roared at his staff. "How do they know our weaknesses?" The answer was simple. Dr. Park Minji had spent 50 years studying every piece of Vorthak technology she could find. She knew their systems better than they did. She had designed human weapons specifically to exploit every weakness in Empire defenses. As the battle continued, more Vorthak ships exploded, or simply shut down as the virus spread through their networks. The proud First Fleet, which had never been defeated in 3 centuries of conquest, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had believed was extinct. Throughout Empire space, the broadcast continued. Every Vorthak world received Admiral Kang Deho's message, along with live footage of the battle at Zirion Prime. They watched in horror as their most powerful fleet was torn apart by human ships, but the humans weren't the only ones watching. The Empire's enslaved species, the Zephyrians, the Corrales, the Tectani, and dozens of others, also received the broadcast. For the first time in centuries, they saw the mighty Vorthak Empire being defeated. On Zephyria, the homeworld of one enslaved species, crowds gathered in the streets to watch the broadcast on public screens. When they saw Vorthak ships exploding, they began to cheer. When they heard that the humans had returned for revenge, they started planning their own rebellion. The same scene played out on dozens of worlds. Species that had been conquered and enslaved by the Empire suddenly saw hope for the first time in generations. If the humans could fight back and win, maybe they could too. Back at Zirion Prime, the battle was reaching its conclusion. Of the 50 mighty warships that Grand Admiral Thexmore had brought, only 12 remained operational. The rest were either destroyed or drifting helplessly as their systems failed. Captain OG-1 opened a communication channel to the Vorthak flagship. Grand Admiral Thexmore, this is Captain OG-1 of the Human Defense Force. Surrender now and your remaining crews will be allowed to escape. Continue fighting and we will destroy every last ship. Thexmore stared at the human captain's face on his screen. She was young, probably born after the war that was supposed to have eliminated her species. Yet here she was, commanding a fleet that had just destroyed the Empire's greatest military force. The Vorthak High Council met in emergency session on their capital world of Vorth Prime. The massive chamber was filled with the Empire's most powerful leaders, their green scales glistening under the harsh lights as they argued about how to respond to the human threat. "This cannot be happening," roared Council Leader Mordak, his claws scraping against the stone table. "The humans were extinct. We destroyed every one of their worlds. We hunted down every ship." "Clearly we failed," replied Councilmember Corvesh coldly. "The question now is what we do about it. These humans have technology we don't understand. They destroyed the First Fleet like it was nothing." What the Council didn't know was that their entire discussion was being monitored by human intelligence agents. Dr. Park, Minji's virus had infected even the most secure systems on Vorth Prime. Every word they spoke was being transmitted to Admiral Kang Deho in real time. Kang Deho sat in his command center, listening to the Vorthak leaders panic. After 50 years of careful planning, everything was working exactly as he had hoped. The Empire was in chaos. Their fleets were scattered and damaged, and their confidence was shattered. General Lim Kyung, he called to his chief of operations. "Begin Phase 3 immediately. It's time to show them what real fear looks like." General Lim Kyung was a stern woman in her 50s who had lost her entire family when the Vorthak destroyed Earth. She had spent decades preparing for this moment, coordinating the most complex military operation in human history. Now she would oversee the systematic destruction of the Vorthak Empire. "All task forces are standing by, Admiral," she reported. "We have ships positioned at 47 major Empire worlds. Dr. An Jamin's biological weapons are ready for deployment. The subjugated species have confirmed they're ready to join our offensive." Dr. An Jamin had been working on something very special for the past 10 years. He had studied Vorthak biology in detail and developed weapons that targeted their specific genetic structure. These weapons would affect only Vorthak, leaving other species completely unharmed. "Begin the offensive," Kang Deho ordered. "Show the galaxy what happens to those who try to destroy humanity." Across Empire space, human ships materialized out of the darkness like deadly ghosts. They appeared at major Vorthak military bases, industrial worlds, and communication hubs. But this time, they weren't just attacking military targets. They were targeting the very foundations of Empire civilization. On Chronix 7, a major Vorthak industrial world, Commander Shin Yuri led a special operations team in capturing the planet's main manufacturing complex. Her soldiers moved through the facility like shadows, eliminating guards and taking control of the automated systems. "Facility secured," she reported back to base. converting production lines to manufacture weapons for the rebellion forces. This was part of humanity's strategy. Instead of simply destroying Empire infrastructure, they were capturing it and turning it against its former owners. Vorthak factories began producing weapons for enslaved species. Vorthak communication networks started broadcasting rebellion propaganda. Even Vorthak ships were being captured and converted for use against the Empire. Commander Shin Yuri was an expert in psychological warfare. She understood that the most effective way to defeat an enemy was to break their will to fight. As her team took control of the industrial complex, they made sure every Vorthak worker saw what was happening. They wanted word to spread that humans could strike anywhere, anytime. On Nexus Prime, the same world where Commander Yoon Taik had infiltrated the weapons research facility, human forces launched a massive assault. Captain Lee Sunho led the attack personally, commanding a fleet of 60 ships against the heavily fortified world. The battle was swift and decisive. Human weapons sliced through orbital defense platforms like they were made of paper. Vorthak ships found their systems failing at critical moments as Dr. Park Minji's virus continued to spread through their networks. All orbital defenses neutralized, Captain Lee reported, beginning planetary assault. But the assault on Nexus Prime was different from other attacks. Instead of simply destroying the research facility, the humans captured it intact. They wanted access to all the Empire's military secrets. Every piece of advanced technology the Vorthak had developed. Dr. An Jamin accompanied the assault team to Nexus Prime. He was particularly interested in the biological research laboratories where the Vorthak had been experimenting with genetic weapons. What he found there made him smile coldly. "They've been developing diseases to use against the rebellious species," he reported to Admiral Kang Daeho. "How convenient. Now I can modify these same diseases to affect only Vorthak." The irony was perfect. The Empire's own biological weapons would be turned against them, modified to target their genetic structure specifically. Dr. An Jamin began working immediately to weaponize the Vorthak's own research. Throughout Empire space, the coordinated human offensive continued, but the humans weren't fighting alone. The enslaved species that had served the Empire for centuries were finally rising up in rebellion. On Zephyria, millions of blue-skinned Zephyrians poured into the streets, overwhelming the small Vorthak garrison that had controlled their world. They had been waiting for this moment for 200 years. Ever since their world was conquered, the Keralis, a proud warrior species that had been forced to serve in the Empire's armies, turned their weapons against their Vorthak commanders. Space stations throughout their territory fell to Keralis forces within hours. Even the peaceful Tectani, who had never fought anyone, began sabotaging Empire infrastructure on their worlds. They had learned that sometimes violence was the only answer to oppression. All of these rebellions were being coordinated by human agents who had been placed throughout Empire territory over the years. The humans provided weapons, tactical support, and most importantly, hope. For the first time in centuries, the enslaved species believed they could actually win their freedom. Back on Vorth Prime, the High Council was receiving reports of disasters from across their territory. Entire sectors were in rebellion. Key worlds had fallen to human forces. Their own weapons and ships were being used against them. "We must negotiate," insisted Council Member Veltar. "Contact these humans and offer them terms. We can give them territory, resources, whatever they want." Council Leader Mordak slammed his fist on the table. "We do not negotiate with extinct species. Deploy the reserve fleets. Activate the planetary bombardment protocols. We will burn every world that rebels against us." But when they tried to contact their reserve fleets, they discovered that many of the ships weren't responding. Dr. Park Minji's virus had spread so thoroughly through Empire networks that even their most secure communications were compromised. On the few ships that did respond, the human virus was causing critical malfunctions. Weapon systems shut down randomly. Navigation computers provided false coordinates. Life support systems failed without warning. Admiral Kang Daeho watched the reports flowing in from across the galaxy with deep satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. The Empire that had tried to destroy humanity was now being destroyed in return. "Admiral," General Lim Kyung reported, "we've captured the Central Command facility at Zerion Prime. We now have access to all Empire military codes and communication protocols." This was a critical victory. With access to Empire command codes, Human forces could impersonate Vorthak officers and give false orders to enemy fleets. They could redirect supply shipments to rebellion forces. They could even activate automated defense systems to attack Vorthak ships. But Admiral Kang Daeho wasn't satisfied with just military victory. He wanted the Vorthak to understand exactly what they had done wrong. He wanted them to suffer the same fear and helplessness that humans had felt 50 years ago. Begin broadcasting the historical records, he ordered. I want every Vorthak in the galaxy to see what their empire did to Earth. Across Empire space, human-controlled communication networks began showing footage from 50 years ago. They showed Vorthak fleets bombarding human cities. They showed human civilians being slaughtered. They showed Earth burning as the Empire's weapons turned humanity's homeworld into ash and dust. The effect was exactly what Kang Daeho had hoped for. Many Vorthak had never seen these records before. They had been told that humans were dangerous monsters who deserved to be destroyed. Now they saw the truth, that humans had been ordinary people living on peaceful worlds when the Empire decided to exterminate them. Some Vorthak were horrified by what they saw. Others tried to justify it by claiming humans had been a threat. But all of them understood one thing clearly. The humans who had returned were not interested in mercy or forgiveness. Dr. On, Jimin completed his biological weapons and began deploying them on major Vorthak worlds. The modified diseases spread quickly through Vorthak populations, causing fever, weakness, and eventually death, but they were designed to be slow-acting, giving the victims time to understand what was happening to them. The biological weapons are working perfectly, he reported to Admiral Kang Daeho. Vorthak populations on 12 worlds are already showing symptoms. The diseases only affect their species. All other life forms are completely immune. This was humanity's justice. The human fleet that surrounded Vorth Prime was the largest armada ever assembled in galactic history. 500 sleek black ships hung in space around the Empire's capital world like a deadly wall of metal and energy. At their head was Admiral Kang Daeho's flagship, Retribution, the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. On the planet below, Council Leader Mordek stood at the window of his palace, looking up at the stars that were now filled with enemy ships. For 3 centuries, Vorth Prime had been the center of galactic power. No enemy fleet had ever approached this close to the capital. Now the sky was dark with human vessels. Sir, his aide whispered nervously, the humans are broadcasting a message. They're demanding to speak with you personally. Mordak walked slowly to his communication center. His hands shook as he activated the system. The screen lit up with the image of an elderly human in a crisp military uniform. This was Admiral Kang Daeho, the man who had orchestrated the Empire's destruction. Council Leader Mordak. Kang Daeho's voice was calm and cold. I am Admiral Kang Daeho of the Earth Defense Force. You tried to destroy my species 50 years ago. You failed. Now it's time for you to face the consequences. Mordak found his voice with difficulty. Admiral, surely we can negotiate. The Empire is willing to discuss terms. We can offer you territory, resources, compensation for past conflicts. Kang Daeho's expression didn't change. You should have thought of mercy 50 years ago. There will be no negotiation. You have one choice. Complete and total surrender of all Vorthak military assets, disbanding of your government, and submission to human authority. The alternative is planetary annihilation. This is madness, Mordak shouted.
We are a civilized species.
We have rights. Did the humans have rights when you burned their worlds? Kang Daeho asked quietly. Did the children on Earth have rights when you destroyed their cities? You forfeited any claim to mercy when you chose genocide. The ultimatum was broadcast across all Vorthak communication networks. Every member of the Empire heard Admiral Kang Daeho's words and understood that their civilization was about to end. Some tried to flee the planet in small ships, but human vessels intercepted them. Others prepared for a final battle, but their weapons were no match for human technology. In the depths of the palace, Dr. Park Minji worked with a team of human technicians to shut down Vorth Prime's planetary defense systems. Her virus had already infected most of the planet's computer networks, giving her complete control over their infrastructure. All defensive systems are offline, she reported to Admiral Kang Daeho. The planet is completely defenseless. We can land troops anywhere we choose. But Kang Daeho wasn't planning a ground invasion. He had something much more effective in mind. President Park Jin-hyuk, the leader of humanity's reformed government, had given him permission to demonstrate exactly what happened to species that tried to destroy humanity. "Begin the demonstration," Kang Daeho ordered. High above Vorth Prime, a single human ship moved into position. It was smaller than most warships but carried humanity's most powerful weapon, a device that could manipulate gravity itself. Dr. Park Minji had spent 20 years developing this technology, specifically for this moment. The gravity weapon activated, with a low hum that could be felt across the planet. Suddenly, one of Vorth Prime's smaller moons began to move. The human ship was pulling the moon out of its orbit, dragging it slowly toward the planet. On the surface, millions of Vorthak looked up in terror as one of their moons grew larger and larger in the sky. They could see it moving, pulled by forces they didn't understand. If it hit the planet, it would destroy all life on Vorth Prime. "Stop this!" Mordek screamed into his communicator. "We surrender! We surrender completely!" Admiral Kang Daeho's voice came back immediately. "Surrender accepted. All Vorthak military forces will stand down immediately. Your government is dissolved as of this moment. Vorth Prime is now under human administration." The moon stopped moving, held in place by the human gravity weapon just close enough to remind everyone on the planet how easily their world could be destroyed. It would stay there permanently, a constant reminder of what happened to species that chose genocide. Within hours, human troops landed on Vorth Prime and took control of all government facilities. The Empire's leaders were arrested and prepared for trial. Their military was disbanded completely. Every Vorthak warship was either destroyed or converted for use by human forces. But Admiral Kang Daeho's justice went beyond simple military victory. Working with Dr. An Jaemin, he implemented a program that would ensure the Vorthak could never threaten anyone again. All Vorthak technology above pre-industrial levels is being confiscated. Admiral Kwan Mira announced to the gathered crowds on Vorth Prime. She had been promoted to oversee the occupation of the capital world. Admiral Kwan Mira was younger than most of the human command staff, but she had proven herself during the final battles. Her job was to make sure the Vorthak understood their new position in the galaxy. "Your species will be confined to this world under permanent monitoring," she continued. "You will not be allowed to develop advanced technology or leave this solar system. This is the price for attempting genocide. The Vorthak would be allowed to live, but they would never again be a threat to anyone. They would remain on their homeworld with technology limited to what they had possessed centuries ago, before they began their conquest of the galaxy." Meanwhile, across the former empire, the liberated species were celebrating their freedom. The Zephyrians declared independence and established their own democratic government. The Keralis formed a warrior council to protect their territory. The Tectani began rebuilding their peaceful civilization. Ambassador Han Seongjae was busy traveling between these new governments, helping them establish diplomatic relations and trade agreements. He was humanity's chief diplomat, tasked with building a new galactic community, based on cooperation rather than conquest. "The Zephyrians have agreed to join the Galactic Council," he reported to President Park Jin-hyuk. "So have the Keralis and the Tectani. We're creating something the galaxy has never seen before, a true alliance of free species." President Park Jin-hyuk was the leader of humanity's civilian government. He had been elected by the human survivors to guide their species into this new era. Unlike the military leaders who had focused on revenge, his job was to build a better future. "What about sharing our technology?" he asked Ambassador Han. "We're proceeding carefully," Han replied. "We're sharing medical technology and agricultural improvements freely. Defensive weapons technology is being provided to species that request protection, but we're keeping the most advanced systems under human control for now." This was a wise decision. Humanity had learned from the Vorthak's mistakes. They would not allow any species to become powerful enough to threaten others, but they would also use their power to protect the weak, rather than exploit them. Dr. Park Minji established research stations throughout the former empire, working with scientists from dozens of species to develop new technologies for peaceful purposes. The same genius that had created weapons of revenge was now focused on healing and growth. "We're making incredible progress," she reported during a council meeting. "Working with Zephyrian biologists, we've developed medical treatments that can extend lifespans for most galactic species. The Keralis engineers have helped us design more efficient starship engines. The Tectani philosophers are helping us understand how to maintain peace between different cultures. 6 months after the fall of Vorth Prime, Admiral Kang Deho stood before the first meeting of the new Galactic Council. Representatives from 47 species filled the chamber, all of them free peoples who had chosen to join humanity's alliance. "We did not return for conquest," he told the assembled delegates. "We returned for justice. But justice without mercy becomes vengeance, and vengeance without purpose becomes evil. Today we choose a different path." The new Galactic Council established principles that would govern relations between species. No species would be allowed to conquer or enslave another. Disputes would be resolved through negotiation and arbitration. Advanced technology would be shared for peaceful purposes but strictly controlled to prevent the development of weapons of mass destruction. Most importantly, humanity would serve as the galaxy's protector. Their superior technology and military capability would be used to defend the innocent and prevent any species from repeating the Vorthax crimes. Let this be a lesson to any who would repeat the Empire's mistakes. Admiral Kang Deho concluded his speech. Humanity remembers, humanity endures, and humanity protects those who cannot protect themselves. The transformation of the galaxy was remarkable. Within a year, trade flourished between the free worlds. Art and culture began to bloom as species that had been oppressed for centuries rediscovered their heritage. Scientific advancement accelerated as researchers from different species worked together. On Earth, which had been restored using advanced terraforming technology, children played in parks that had been built over the ruins of destroyed cities. They learned about the dark time when their species had almost been destroyed, but they also learned about hope and the importance of protecting others.